The first vaccine was developed in the 18th century by the British biologist Edward Jenner. At this time, smallpox was widespread and killed around 10 to 20% of the British population. Jenner discovered that by infecting someone with cowpox, they developed an immunity to smallpox, and thus the first vaccine was developed. Since then, vaccines have been developed for over 20 life-threatening diseases and have had a global impact. However, misinformation and bad science continue to be spread about vaccines. So, with that in mind, here are 10 things you should know about vaccines. 1. Vaccines save and improve lives every year. Vaccinations are a global success story for health and development by reducing the risks of getting a disease by helping your body's natural defences, your immune system, to develop protection. The World Health Organization states that vaccines prevent 3.5 to 5 million deaths every year from diseases like diphtheria, pertussis, influenza and measles. There are around 12 million children who die in the world every year, and more than half of those deaths, over 6 million of them, could have been prevented with vaccination. During the COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine scepticism came to the spotlight, with misinformation and challenges overcoming information barriers contributing to the number of under-vaccinated people around the world. 2. Vaccines bring economic, social and health benefits. Vaccines help to prevent diseases. For children, this means they're able to attend school more, allowing them to engage and learn more, and therefore improving their job prospects and future earnings. For adults, it results in working and earning more, and they spend more in the local economy instead of on healthcare. Immunisation, making a person immune to a disease through administering a vaccine, is also a weapon in the fight for gender equality, as it frees up time, energy and resources for women who may otherwise find themselves caring for sick family members. This also gives women more opportunities to work and to contribute and participate in society. Equally, this freedom allows women to have more opportunities for education and making family decisions, resulting in their children being more likely to be vaccinated. 3. It is better to become immune through vaccines. A common response from those sceptical about vaccines is that diseases are just part of childhood and it is better to have the disease and become immune that way rather than through vaccination. However, vaccine-preventable diseases have many serious complications that can be avoided through immunisation. For example, the World Health Organization estimates that seasonal influenza results in the deaths of around 290 to 650,000 people globally each year. Throughout Europe, there has been a recent rise in pertussis, also called whooping cough, with newborn babies and infants too young to be fully vaccinated, so relying on those around them being vaccinated, at an increased risk of severe illness and death. Polio can cause paralysis and measles can cause blindness and encephalitis, inflammation of the brain. Other vaccine-preventable diseases which carry with them a risk of severe illness, long-term health implications or even death include diphtheria, hepatitis B, mumps, meningitis, tetanus, tuberculosis and yellow fever. As the old saying goes, prevention is better than the cure. 4. Vaccines do not contain harmful ingredients. While any substance can be harmful if exposed to a high enough dose, even water, vaccines contain ingredients at lower doses than you're exposed to in your everyday life. Here are some examples that are commonly mentioned. Mercury. Vaccines that are manufactured in multi-dose vials contain thimerosal, which is a preservative that contains mercury. However, you are routinely exposed to mercury, and often in higher doses than in vaccines, through milk, seafood and even contact lens solution. There is no evidence that thimerosal poses any risk to health. Formaldehyde. The dose of formaldehyde in vaccines is lower than you're exposed to in your daily life through automobile exhausts, household products and furnishings such as carpets, upholstery, cosmetics, paint and felt tip markers, and in health products such as antihistamines, cough drops and mouthwash. Aluminium. Aluminium is added to some vaccines in order to boost and build a stronger immunity. Not all vaccines contain aluminium, however those that do contain it in doses much less than the average person consumes daily from foods, drinking water and medicines. 5. Vaccines do not cause autism or sudden infant death syndrome. A study released in 1998 raised concerns about a link between the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella, and autism. However, it was retracted by the journal that published it because it had significant flaws due to bad science. In reality, vaccines are very safe, with most vaccine reactions usually being minor and temporary, such as a fever or a sore arm. Any serious health events following a vaccination are carefully monitored and investigated to ensure the ongoing safety of vaccines. Scientists continue to study the causes of autism and sudden infant death syndrome. Over the years, a lot more has been learned about autism science and the developmental progression leading to autism, which begins during pregnancy, with possible autism-related genes being identified, as well as potential chemical exposures during pregnancy, which can result in autism. Many children are diagnosed with autism around the same time as they are receiving their early vaccines. However, there is no link between vaccines and autism. For more information on this, I would recommend you read the book Vaccines Did Not Cause Rachel's Autism by scientist, paediatrician and autism dad, Dr. Peter Hotez. The risks related to receiving a vaccination are greatly outweighed by the benefits, as without vaccines, many more serious health conditions and deaths would occur. 6. You won't get the disease from its vaccine. Vaccines train your immune system to create antibodies just as it does when it's exposed to a disease. However, because vaccines contain only killed or weakened forms of germs like viruses or bacteria, they do not cause a disease or put you at risk of its complications. Vaccines that do contain a weakened but live version of the virus or bacteria may lead to a mild case of the disease. For example, the chickenpox vaccine can cause a child to develop a mild rash which isn't harmful and can actually show that the vaccine is working. Of course, for every rule there is an exception, which in this case was a live oral polio vaccine, which very rarely would mutate and actually cause a case of polio. However, there has been a global move away from the oral polio vaccine, with over 150 countries having moved away from the use of this vaccine in favour of an inactivated polio vaccine. 7. You can't just rely on herd immunity. Herd immunity occurs when a significant portion of a population becomes immune to an infectious disease and the risk of a disease spreading from person to person is greatly reduced. Some people, such as infants, pregnant women, and those who have a weakened immune system due to another condition, all rely on herd immunity to keep themselves safe. However, there is a threshold, that is, a certain percentage of the population who must be immune for herd immunity to work. If enough people decide they don't need vaccinated because herd immunity will protect them, there will not be enough immune people in society and the benefits of herd immunity will be lost. This threshold is different for every disease and depends on multiple factors, such as how easily it spreads and whom it infects. One such way is based on the number of people that one contagious person can on average be expected to infect in a community of unprotected adults. For example, measles is a highly contagious virus and requires a 95% threshold before herd immunity kicks in. Polio, on the other hand, is less contagious and only requires 80 to 85% of the population to be immunised for herd immunity to work. 8. Vaccines do not change your DNA. During the COVID-19 pandemic, people became more aware of mRNA vaccines, as two of the most prominent vaccines developed for the pandemic are of this type. However, there were people expressing concerns that the vaccines would change your DNA. So what is an mRNA vaccine and how does it work? There is a component that has been in the cells of all life on Earth for billions of years, known as messenger ribonucleic acid, mRNA for short. What this does is deliver instructions to our DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, to make specific proteins in our cells. When used in a vaccine, the mRNA instructs our cells to create a harmless protein identical to one found in a particular virus. Once the instructions have been decoded and the protein made, the immune system recognises this foreign protein and produces antibodies to combat it if it encounters a real virus in the future, and the mRNA from the vaccine breaks down. Although the immune system has a memory for creating antibodies, this can fade over time, which is why booster vaccines are necessary. 9. mRNA holds exciting developments for the future. Scientists have been studying mRNA vaccines for decades, including research into different coronaviruses. An mRNA is a bit like a wanted poster. Once the template has been set, a different face, the instructions for developing a particular protein, can be easily inserted, meaning mRNA vaccines can be designed and produced more quickly than traditional vaccines. This is critical for tackling evolving viruses or in pandemic situations. Beyond fighting pandemics, there is hope that mRNA vaccines could be used to train the immune system to target cancer cells, and in a manner that is personalised to the unique cancer profile in individual patients, or even for people with rare diseases. 10. Vaccination is a cornerstone of the world's Sustainable Development Goals. As mentioned in number 2, vaccines are good for individuals and their communities socially, economically, and from a health perspective. A larger, healthier workforce is more productive, and since the costs of administering vaccines is the lowest they've ever been, the benefits far outweigh the costs, especially since vaccines have a global impact. Unfortunately, the most vulnerable people in the world are hit the hardest without vaccines. Underlying causes of poverty are worsened due to illnesses that can be prevented by vaccines. Half of the world's population can't access healthcare services, and those in poverty struggle even more with the impacts of poor health, such as a loss of income or the cost of medications. Helping children to be healthier through vaccines, as well as improved nutrition, education, water and sanitation, and income potential, is a stimulant towards them breaking free from poverty for good. Through various partnerships and sponsorship programs, together we are helping children to survive, thrive and unlock a healthier future, and vaccines play a huge part in this. There are two final thoughts I want to leave you with. 1. Technology is rapidly advancing as time goes on, and our vaccine technology is doing the same. Vaccines have now been around for hundreds of years, and the continued building on the learning from previous vaccines and new ways of administering vaccines now allows scientists to very quickly identify a virus, develop and test a vaccine, and have this released for use in vaccinating the public. 2. Social media is a great place to catch up with friends, post pictures of your dinner or watch cat videos. However, it is not where you should go for your knowledge on health and medical care. Scientists, doctors and other medical professionals have all studied for years to understand what is in vaccines, how they affect the body and how best they should be administered. It is important for our own communities as well as our national and global communities that we use the tools we have to help us keep healthy and improve the world for all. Thank you for watching this Things You Should Know video. The information for this video came from the World Health Organization, World Vision, the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology, the UK Health Secretary Agency and the aforementioned book by Dr. Peter Hotez. I've put the links to these in the description. You can subscribe to the channel by pushing the button here, and I've added a link here to my other Things You Should Know videos and underneath to my STEM activity videos and my STEM career interviews. This has been STEM with Mr. N, exploring 10 things you should know about vaccines.